Hello, welcome back to the Funk Treatise 5th edition readings by an assortment of people. Today we have Taylor Love, and Taylor is going to be reading pages 221 through 230. So without much ado, or without further ado, let us begin. Oh, before I start, I'll explain it as it happens.
My name is Taylor, and I'm going to be reading pages 221 through 230.
Okay, I guess this goes later when she's sharing her thoughts. I accidentally, when I sent all the emails out and assignments of which pages to read, I was copy pasting the whole thing, but I accidentally forgot to change the page numbers when I sent them to Taylor. So Taylor read 20 pages technically, and so she had a little bit more understanding when she was reading this 10 pages as well, based off of those 10 pages. But Taylor, once again, I apologize for my mistake. I am human. Or am I? But let us continue and let us listen to pages 221 through 230. And once again, Taylor, thank you again for being part of this, for reading twice and sharing your thoughts. All right, here we go. I'm going to start over.
My name is Taylor, and I'm going to be reading pages 221 through 230. And so the concept of this feeling, I'm going to neologize as quantum malurignestion, as it is like the allure of a quantum magnet pulling me to write these words of this very treatise and the attempt of sharing this information with the collective funk. I postulate humans as hierarchical entities, and even funk itself is our malurignetically linked to caravanial influence. We are prediction machines, after all, and we could be evolving this sense further and further, some to feel it and some not, but all to have it. May 25th, 2024. Malurignestion leads, pulls, guides, directs us and everything into synocracies and beyond. It brought us here through our moments and timelines of Caravania and you reading these words now and everything else that happens beyond. Wednesday, December 9th, 2019, continued. Sean Penalber. More questions and answers came to me in my sleep last night. For those of you still reading this far, I would like you now to consider the idea of secrets and the influence they share when both withheld from or shared with a trusting environment. Trusting being extremely important. If you cannot trust your environment or even yourself, then how or why should anything trust you? If a light switch is on or off, it is a secret to many as to why the switch is on, off, or in between, or gone. Unless somehow we know of or learn the secret that perhaps someone like you or I, or an event or of actions turned it on, off, or was in the act of doing, or had taken it away, then we would never truly know why it is in the state that it is, was observed to be in, and what put it into the state, whether it be through creation or influence after existence. When you are on stage performing improv, it is important to tell your partners your secrets or intentions and characters you are acting as, or they will just assume who you are and what you are doing. You may have had an idea or been a certain character or thing, but unless your secrets were properly expressed, then they remain secret, and your reacting partner will then attempt to share their secrets based on their assumptions and knowledge of what they think you currently are doing and who you are and what your intentions could be. Even when not in an act, when you are interacting with an object in your everyday offstage environment, it is still that communication and performance of giving, gathering, and collecting information and attempting to create the subjective, objective, best storyline with whatever you're interacting with or event you are experiencing. June 12, 2022. You have to share the secrets you are experiencing or want to experience in order to experience the desired experience, as everything develops depending on the result you or they want.
And so again, we've already been through this page earlier in the treatise, or these sections kind of, we're just now experiencing it as it happened in real time. But essentially, for those of you who are just now tuning in, what I'm kind of saying here is like, when you're doing improv, whether on stage or off stage, and again, improv being active communication, active listening, and building a moment together. It's not exactly about being funny, though hilarity does come up often. A lot of people confuse improv with stand-up because a lot of stand-ups do stand up at the improv. Um, but regardless of that, if you don't, when you're in a scene, again, on stage or off stage, when you're building a moment with someone, if you don't share the secrets of kind of what you mean or what your intentions are or where you think you're going with this scene, then the partner or partners that you're with on or off stage will only assume to know what you are doing, and then they will come up with their own reactions and responses and maybe share their secrets, or not. An example I could give is the other day at practice, um, our our initiation was to basically do an act that like could be just a normal act of doing, and then evolve the scene from there. And so I started on the stage, and I was like, in my head, I was skipping stones on a pond. But I didn't say that. I was just skipping the stones because we weren't supposed to really talk in the beginning. We were supposed to just be doing actions and then form from there. Um, and so I'm sitting there doing this, and Brad comes up. Y'all may or may not know Brad, but I'm just going to use his name. He comes up and he starts doing it as well, but he kind of like switches it up, and then he starts catching it back. And so, since I didn't share the secret that we were skipping stones on the pond, his assumption was that we were throwing a ball and it was bouncing back from a garage. And so then he initiated the scene as that. And it turned out to be a pretty funny scene about the ball always coming back, and then an existential breakdown of, I don't want to do this anymore, and then getting rid of the ball, and then Brad freaking out. But you had to be there, right? It's kind of explaining those moments when you're like, you enjoyed something, you're passionate about it, and you want to explain it, but not a lot of people really care, or again, because you had to be there to experience it. It could maybe be funny, but now I'm just going on a tangent. But essentially, it kind of is just that. Like, if you don't really share your intentions, then or your secrets, then other people will just assume what they are, and they'll fill in those gaps based off of their own assumptions and judgments. And so, just as I say down here, you have to share the secrets you are experiencing or want to experience in order to experience the desired experience, as everything develops depending on the result you and they want. And so, to extend on or off stage, y'all are both sharing your secrets in some ways, developing this scene. If you want a good scene, because then there's, again, the inverse, people who don't listen to each other, who don't actively communicate, and who will just like say random shit or steamroll an entire scene. And some people do that off stage as well. But then when you're all both doing that and interacting in whatever way you will, when you're on stage, you also have the audience sharing their reactions. Now, they can't really share their secrets. Their secrets are kind of just the emotions that they're feeling. And so when you're on stage, you kind of resonate with that. But even off stage, there's still the environment around you. And so you're still a part of all of this funk and everything, interacting with each other, all sharing your secrets and understanding and misunderstanding all at the same time as you move forward through it all.
Same with relationships, whether social, sexual, or for pleasure, etc. When connecting with a partner, if we do not tell our partners what we like or how they can give us what we could want or need or not, and vice versa, they can only assume how to do so with only the information they understand from previous individual perspective and experience, and both of you will experience limited satisfaction until you or we can communicate properly and tell each other what we need at that moment in those moments of coexistence. In my study of patterns, I see that it is very difficult for us as humans to share secrets, especially depending on what they are, but we still do so subconsciously until we eventually share them consciously or purposefully or not. If the human mind, or even a quantum unit or formation of units of energy, could understand those secrets as easily as yourself thinking of them, then they would know you closer and why these secrets are there and who you are because of them. And that is an exposure of the self, and many are ashamed or afraid of who they are or what their secrets may be, depending on their perspectives of and reactions to, as well as the other outer social influences, reactions, and perspectives of.
And so what I kind of mean there is if we were able to like understand each other to like a telepathic mental level, like I was able, like you were just able to understand my thoughts even right now through this video, and just like truly understand and truly know why I was saying what I was saying, the thoughts behind them, the realities behind them, and you could have it in your own head, and then you could form your own thoughts on top of that. Just how fast information would connect and evolve from that. But a lot of people would be afraid of that because they don't want you in their head, because they fear the secrets that they have, and being shamed or embarrassed by those things. But there's also the argument that like if someone was inside of your head, they would understand why you have those thoughts and things, and then you could both at the speed of thought reach a further understanding together. It might be a little embarrassing at first, but I'm sure there's some relief in sharing secrets. Now, I was talking to this with someone once about like that ability, and they were worried and they expressed concern like, yeah, but what if someone is like a psychopath or a sociopath, and they get into your head? Would their brain be strong enough to overcome your brain? And I don't know. That's a great question. And we won't know until we try it out or test it. Trial and error.
If you purchase a difficult puzzle, usually the secrets or solutions behind them comes inside the box, so that if you or someone else are unable to solve the puzzle, that solution...
Oh, pause, because what if the inverse of that? Like, what if you are able to get into their head as well, and then they can perhaps see the ability of care, because maybe they can't. Maybe, as we talked about earlier, their amygdala is too small or unformed, and so they are unable to experience empathy or fear. But since they can connect into your brain or someone else's brain, you could possibly show them what that is like. But then, once you're gone out of that, would they still be able to see it or feel it? Again, we don't know yet. We don't know yet. Let me go back a little bit on this.
Or solutions behind them be, depending on their perspectives of and reactions to, as well as the other outer social influences, reactions, and perspectives of. If you purchase a difficult puzzle, usually the secrets or solutions behind them comes inside the box, so that if you or someone else are unable to solve the puzzle, that solution is accessible, so you could figure out how it works in the future or present if you wanted or needed. But it is commonly in our nature to attempt the puzzle first before looking at the answer, and it is currently in our natures to perhaps feel a form of shame, submission, or failure when you finally look at that answer if you are unable to solve the puzzle. But in doing so and investigating what you could not learn, you have now successfully learned the answers and can pass that information along to the world. If it's a game and you are frustrated or afraid to seek help to learning the solutions or answers to unknown information, imagine how frustrated or afraid you're going to be when attempting to learn the answers or seek the solutions to yourself and everything. It is frightening or embarrassing thought at first, but I propose to each of you to be that person of trust and to share your secrets, or at least attempt to. As socially we see more and more that when you do, we feel much better and can progress and expand from it faster and further, rather varying as positive or negative reactions. Almost unburdened, even if occasionally you're temporarily existing within your own feelings of burden, because now your secrets are a shared experience and your environment will have your back, or it won't. But as I postulate, you will find those that have your back, and you will be able to further process how to most progressively and proactively react to those who don't. In an observation of this study, those who don't eventually leave or become distant to the equation, or may even attempt to remove you from it because you and or they know they cannot have your back and are making a choice, consciously or not, to be untrusting. And that personal guilt or desire to take advantage of another, instinctually or not, could lead to, unfortunately, another being or object to see you as an opportunity to abuse. You have to be ready for it all, or the fear of the unknown will have the greater influence on your decisions, actions, and being. We can attempt to strengthen our experiences with these moments by experiencing these moments either once or again and again and again.
And so I cover a few things here. Again, the idea that like some secrets, when you finally share them, are like a burden lifted off you because you don't have this thing eating at you inside anymore. Um, but some of those secrets are more dangerous than others. Like the secret that maybe you murdered someone, right? And you could never tell anyone, or else you're going to get caught. But maybe uh, sharing that secret could, in some way, relieve your burden, but it then would unlock another burden, and that's the fuego puerta for the person in that situation. Um, but again, if we were able to communicate and share our secrets at a deeper level of understanding, then perhaps we wouldn't be put in those situations. We wouldn't have to murder each other because you could reach a deeper understanding before reaching that moment. But it's all a spectrum of everything. And with the way thesis, antithesis, and synthesis and how they balance out, even if we reach that level of understanding, there's going to be this natural balance of antithesis to whatever that is. And we don't know what that would be like because we're not experiencing it yet. But then we go down further, that eventually you're going to find those who either have your back and will want to understand you or be there for you or anything, or you will be with those who, or you'll learn how to handle those who can't or don't. Because eventually those who like don't have your back, eventually usually leave the equation when they can't take advantage of you anymore, because they know that they can't have your back, even though that you'll probably have their back to some level. And so they'll probably take advantage of you and pretend that they have your back, and you'll fall for it a while. But eventually, once you realize that they don't have your back, then they'll probably just leave the equation, or you will leave the equation and establish a boundary. And then at the end, I wrap it up by saying you have to be ready for all of these things, or the anxiety and fear of the unknown, of things that like your imagination will get out of hand because you'll be afraid of the fuego puerta, of when you're put in this situation, or even the imagination of this situation, the theoretical situation. You'll be afraid of the outcome, and so you'll choose to not do, or the decisions you will make won't be as productive as if you've been working these situations out, if you've been practicing these situations, and then once you're in them, you'll be a little bit more experienced on how to handle them. Even though you've probably never been in the situation before, your improv experience will be more equipped. You'll be a little bit more strengthened because rather than avoiding it, you've been working it out and exercising it.
In personal observation, yes and is much more healthy and productive than no but. Yes and leads to arguably more success within the games of life, visually and connectedly as an experience. No buts will seemingly always happen as we expand our knowledge towards how to better yes and that's why they are important in our journeys of growth and experience. No but is natural to find how to yes and. Much like in science, you must find and prove why things don't work to find and prove how they do work. The scientific method is no but until it is yes and, each followed by if this, then what. When you are a child, you think, why can I not do this thing? And when you attempt it, it helps or teaches you, or not, by influence of the event of doing or observing. Say your mother tells you not to touch the stove. It is in your no but nature to touch it and learn what happens by experience. unless you have already been burned by something hot, or you know or see someone else who has, and you understand and know that your yes and is that if you touch hot, it will burn you, so you learn to not touch hot. Our lives are a trial and error of no but and yes and. So keep on no butting this information I'm attempting to explain to you and your entire experience of surrounding perspective until you can more understandably yes and it. And then I request you share that collection of no buts and yes ands in our collective if this then what.
And so the example of like touching the stove, you don't know what that's like. Because when you're a child, you've never touched the stove before, or you've seen the stove. Maybe you've experienced the stove. Maybe you've touched it when it's not on, right? But until you figure out what it means to be burned or what hot is, then you won't really understand why you shouldn't touch this thing. The example that I give in these moments of understanding is like when you're young, you don't know what being drunk is like. But then as you get older and you finally experience it, like you see examples through history, through other people and everything, you see what drunk could be like, but you don't know what it is like until you experience it. And then once you get older and you experience it, then you're like, oh, this is what this is like. But then that's also what it's like for you yourself. And so you don't know what something is like until you've kind of experienced it. But then there are some things that you shouldn't experience, or it could kill you, or something like that, you know? And so we learn from others' experience through history. And then here in this next one, what I mean by like this is, again, this is just a request to interact with this information, because how this information evolves is everyone sharing their perspective on it, whether you agree or disagree. And then we find those areas and key things in this reality where all of our perspective is entirely different and individual. And then we see how they meet up within this connection of the connection, because we are all connected through this funk. And so when we share our own perspectives and we keep gathering information and we feed into this universal information, it's just going to continue to grow and expand and make more sense. But also have more to understand as time passes and stuff. And so it's just a request on whether you want to take part in this or not. It is not a demand.
These are our secrets I am sharing with you. My secrets of life, existence, and the universe, and how we interact with all of it and what we've learned from it. Take those secrets and interpret them as you will, because this is how we learn and advance from that, sometimes greater learning. If I'm attempting to teach or translate to you these personal and group observations and collections of information and experience, and you are interpreting it and understanding it in your own way of learning and or moving on from some form of interpreted learning and limited influence, I feel it is important for me to share this information with you. It is in my belief and nature to be patient, kind, helpful, understanding, and loving while promoting and teaching others how to do these things as well, because I love you. And I wish you to see a future where we can love and trust each other as we love and trust ourselves, and have that love and trust be strong and understanding as the strongest chemical bond possible. I wholeheartedly can say that throughout this study, I've discovered what love really means, at least to me. And I can without a doubt say that if you are reading this, I love you. You are interconnectedly a part of me and us, and helped me and us reach these conclusions and reach these secrets that mean so much to me, and I need to share it because I now know how great of a feeling it is and the energy it shares around us. If you've read this far, does that all make more sense to you, or how can I further help you understand it? Please tell me your secrets and let's solve this puzzle of life and its meaning together. And if you choose to take advantage of this information or our relations, then that is your choice. I do not promote taking advantage of others, anything, and I hope you reconsider to work together towards our greatest potential, universal understanding and beyond. So even if you choose to harm me, while I may be reluctantly resenting, I will still choose forgive your misunderstanding and attempt to work towards harmony. But impactfully, your choice would greater affect this continuation of mistrust between not just ourselves, but also our surroundings. So please don't choose to hurt or harm others, yourself, or myself. I can't speak for you, but I will always be willing to work together. It is a selfish attempt to be the selfless reality I wish to be a part of. Love y'all.
Pairability.
Heart. Wednesday, December 11th, 2019, continue. I am now by request sending this information to Colton Grosset. Hello, Colton. Heart. Wednesday, December 11th, 2019, continued. Again, posting information inviting others to discuss over open forum. Linked here. Autolycus Sinusura, December 12th, 2019, Thursday, 3:37:03. This is quite reminiscent of schizoanalysis. Schizoanalysis tracks the image as it organizes inner experience within the individual, isolated from the abstracted social symbolic forms of morality and truth. The best therapy has offered so far is to restore some form of acceptance of the social symbolic order as an alternative to isolated individual symptoms of madness or disease. But every symptom is an opportunity, desire knocking at the window, seeking to escape its rigid confinement. The imaginary world of the individual creates a speculative cartography of life, which frees itself from stagnation and abstraction, yet it longs to be realized materially through a concrete cartography of collective action. Artistic creation is the link between the speculative cartography of the imagery and the concrete cartography of collective action or communication. To speak, to write, to paint is to express the imaginary into the real, where it can form the symbolic truth of the moment in everyday life among a community of those who agree to share for that moment that truth. The community of lovers, the community of those who have nothing in common, does not resort to castration before the law, but preserves the sovereignty of each moment and the integrity of the story and time of each individual made up of such moments, each community made up of such individuals. The client who speaks in the therapeutic setting and the artist who creates for a community of listeners each invent their symbolic individuality collectively by making concrete or real the imaginary formation of their drive or unconscious. They produce their desire, they enjoy their symptom. September 17th, 2020. Consciously, I do not know myself to be experiencing or have ever experienced schizophrenia, but with further investigation, I can see how this observation and collection of data can be related or similar to schizoanalysis. And I, as to anything, welcome further outside input and analysis towards more information. Though whether afflicted or not, it is still a personal decision to move forward and continue to investigate and share these or those experiences and further information so that whether these things are true or not, applicable or not, this documentation can be used as an example of study towards whatever result in whatever field most relevant. May 20th, 2023. With further time and study, I now understand that they were not accusing me to be or have been schizophrenic, but were showcasing what schizoanalysis was. And I agree, all of this is quite reminiscent of reflective to schizoanalysis. Psychoanalysis is the analysis of the mind. Schizoanalysis is the study of how our environments and social society shape the mind. Linked here.
And so at the time when I was first exposed to this, I didn't really understand what he was saying. Again, even all of us, like when you're first presented with information, you may or may not be equipped to understand it at the time. And that's kind of what I experienced when first presenting all this information to people. So I'm trying to make it to where it's a little bit more understandable, no matter where you're dropping into it. But just as I say here, to my understanding of what schizoanalysis is, because at the time, in these last few years, there still is not a lot of information that I can find online about schizoanalysis. But I'm sure at this time, there's probably a little bit more. In fact, I can't remember which podcast it was, but someone was talking about this recently. And I was like, oh, wow, a rare moment of actually hearing more about this. But to my understanding of what this is, so psychoanalysis is the study and the analysis of the mind, and schizoanalysis is the study of how our environments and our social societies shape our minds as individuals. So it's the outside world causing us to kind of the nurture of the nature and nurture. Again, to my understanding of. If you have a better explanation of that, leave it down below. Love to hear from you.
The decisions you make and the actions that follow are a reflection of who you are. You cannot hide from yourself. Samurai Jack's father in season 5. Thursday, December 12th.
I'm going to pause there because what a good season. I don't know if you watched Samurai Jack or not. I did grow up with it. And then when season 5 got released many years later, they knocked it out of the park. Not only is the animation just returning to the style, they made it even more beautiful, still minimalist as it is, and with a great message and ending to the story. I highly recommend the entire series of that. But let's get back to the funk, even though that's a part of it.
2019. Sean Penalver. Hey friends, here's my next crazy project proposal for you in my journey on life and the goals I strive to achieve. I was going to make the announcement early in the year, but I decided to hold back and discuss it with those around me and see what they thought and if I should pursue. I am proposing to you that by 2028 or later, I will either be running, attempting to run, not yet able to run, or unfortunately ever able to run for your President of the United States or some other type of leader. I currently meet all the requirements except being 35. I have 6 years. I understand making this claim is a big decision, and I'm willing to face the potential oppositions head on, but hopefully together. You have at this point seen the many things I have learned, created, achieved, or been a part of in the last 7 years. So imagine what we can do together in the next 9 until we reach that point. If you are still around at that time, I'm hereby requesting further assistance from each of you or none of you to help me reach this goal, or not, in whatever way you want to or cannot. You have already been a significant amount of help and influence to me so far. If I am not yet running, you can write me in if so you choose or not. If I am running, you can vote for me or not. And if I am dead, attempt to grow from my documentation of the earth, universe, and our existences within, without, and beyond the universe, and our connections to each other and all. I'm hoping it's at least somewhat helpful, and if so, please learn from it and help nurture these ideas and philosophies to grow and keep expanding together in the attempt of progressive application. Under the Party of the Funk, I, Sean Penalver, would like to serve as your 2028 or future President of the United States of America, and we can continue to work to explore and possibly unite the universe and each other, unless you personally don't want to or we find we are absolutely scientifically unable. But I propose we can and are able, and hopefully you are able to experience that ability as well or willing to choose to learn how to do so together. With enough time and experience and study, we know that forever some will and forever some won't. So, won't you be my neighbor? You are now experiencing from this point in time the global reactions or lack of to this statement. Enjoy the ride.
And I mean that. And as of this year, I'm 35. So as of 2028, I can start running for the president or to be the president. Now, I don't know if I ever will be president, right? But the goal is to basically, with your help, because you can't do it alone. No one can do that job alone. And so with the help of you, the people, my goal is to just continue to advance myself and ourselves and share that advancement of what it means to be this person or this leader, to lead a country or even a world global influence, right? And so my goal and what I would like to do is build a system that builds a better way to reach that. Like, I would love to build kind of a syllabus of how to be president, how to become president, how to become a leader. So that way, like, we can start building more leaders, because like I don't want to just run against people who just like have this power but don't really care about our planet or each other, or really they just want power, right? And to make decisions that help a certain amount of people. But I want to build a society where almost every one of us could be a potential president. There's a system that I heard about in a podcast once called a randocracy, I think is what it was called. But basically is the idea that like to truly inspire a leader, we would have like a draw to be president, because usually the people who want to be president are not the people that exactly should be president. With that said, I don't want to be this leader. I don't want to be this boss of the world. What I am hoping to achieve is to, again, form this thing with each other that even if I don't become president, we can still leave behind to teach others on what that journey is like, what you need to be doing, what we believe each other should be doing on how to become a great leader and to change, to attempt change in the world. And so all we have is time. And so it is my goal to just face that accountability head on. And then additionally, like through doing that, I know that like we are at this, especially at this point, swimming upstream against a very, very rough waters. Kind of even against a dam, right? Like they've built this huge dam, and we're these tiny little fish at the bottom. And how do we fight against that, right? It would take all of us together to do so. And I am submitting myself to that challenge, whether it leads to my demise or not. But I still would love to just attempt that and to just constantly be improving myself and then sharing that with others to improve them as well, if willing or wanting, and then building a society where any of us could do this thing, to where we're all a little bit more involved than we are already. And I understand that that's going to be a challenge. But I believe in being the change that you want to see. And so that's kind of the process that I'm in now. And I'm building up to that, saving campaign funds, trying to raise this influence and connection to others, and then see where life takes me on what is the next step. Will life even bring me in that direction? Will the funk provide? And so far, it's provided in its own ways. I still have a really good connection and influence. Drawbook has connected me to literally over 15,000 people. I have all my music projects. This project now is going to be expanding a little bit more reach. But the biggest issue is just funding. It's just raising these funds to actually be able to compete with those who are in power and that can buy votes and everything. And so I do have plans of what I would do as president, but I also have plans on how I'm attempting to get there. But again, it takes funds. And so I do have several ideas of things that I am attempting to execute. And hopefully this is a step to that. And so hopefully if you're watching this right now, how do I earn your trust? How do I earn your vote? How do I earn the pairability between us? Because that's what I strive for, is to continue working for that, for all of us in the world. Whether we, like, again, not to force this thing upon everyone, but to attempt pairability and see how far we can go with that, and to hopefully inspire others to do the same. Because we see how things work right now, but are they really working? Are they working for us? It's just a lot of questions, and also my own opinions and everything. But yeah, now you know. I'd like to run for president, or at least something. And so I think one of the next steps is to start running locally and dip my toes in, see what that is like. Because again, we're swimming upstream, and my ideas of helping others is apparently a radical idea. And so we will see what happens out of all of this and where that goes.
Heart. Saturday, December 14th, 2019. June 12th, 2022. Concerning and considering no mission. Racism, sexism, tribalism, and further forms of hate or identification bias could be viewed as a collection of established glitches, disconnections, or misinformation in evolution and in human behavioral patterns, and unawareness of outside connection, experience, and perspective, leading some to fear of their individual status or energy being overcome, becoming less in power of command, or targeted to be removed from their environment for their selective beliefs. If it were coding in a program or energy running through a circuit, outputs need to or either learn to work with the rest of the programming, or it results in an error or an incomplete render of an eventual future, more complete edit or version by advanced learning within the program itself, or if perhaps reprogrammed by some form of universal programmer or programming energy. If we attempt to remove data or reprogram it, the data itself, if conscious or able, will protest or perhaps even strengthen resistance with whatever energy, power, or ability within itself to continue outputting, as it is righteous belief to conquer and achieve existence and reach their goals, whether selfish or selfless. Many of these beings, if not all, in their current state of perspective environmental programming issues, are unable to connect with the selfless unless they prove to do so through compatibility and connecting those circuits of energy, rather than breaking or reconstructing that cable, so all output of inputted energy stops at itself. Or perhaps even the core energy running through the cable is somehow polluted, or like a virus, if eventually those circles connect, the now connected, possibly harmful energy flowing through the past disconnected environment could have destructive effects. So unfortunately, to even attempt to reach a unified greater connection of universal circuitry or programming, the software would have to allow itself to be affected by all of those viruses that could be behind restricted circuits. But once an event of bad connection happens, the resulting effects are observed and troubleshot until a solution is eventually reached or not. And as we should with each other in accountability, records are kept of data and programming so that programmers or the program itself can document, recall, or edit from the past history. So when you see the current or a history of disconnected circuits and viruses, contact your electricians and doctors and each other for more information and suggestions of solutions. And then we save these or those records so it is useful in the future. June 12th, 2022. Reality continues as Q mission with the blending of no missions and we missions. March 20th, 2023. What some philosophers would describe as love, fear, and harmony.
Kind of how, what I mean here, how I'm interpreting it right now is like, what at least is coming to mind is might is not right. And I think that a lot of people here who are racist, sexist, tribalist, or further forms of hate or identification bias, a lot of their, again, I can't explain it overall because it's a spectrum of experience on why they are like this and why they are hateful or whatever they are, right? But a factor that a relative factor between all of these is that like I am better than you, and I or the past have the power over you. Um, Kind of like how war is and everything. Like, might because like if you have a gun and you can anyone who's trying to go against you, you can point that gun at their face and be like, oh yeah, well I have the gun, you know that doesn't make you right. That might is not right. uh, that's an abuse of power. um, though again, racism, sexism, tribalism, all those other things aren't exactly might is right, because might is not right. uh, they have different meanings. I don't know exactly how to solve these things, though only through the attempt of pairability. But people who are usually in these modes don't want that. They think that they exist in their own higher bubble and that the other side is less than them and beyond them. and they would never want that to be on their level, or them to even be brought down to this imagined level that they've brought the others down to. Um, and so if we attempt to remove that data or reprogram a racist or a sexist or a hateful person, they're going to protest that. They're going to oppose it even more, because it's like, how dare you change me? You are the one that needs to change. And you're just going to upset that programming even more. And so how do we truly move beyond that as people and as a society? Again, my suggestion is parability, but the people who are in those moments who need to be attempting parability the most are usually the ones who are, they just can't. They're averse. There's a better word that I'm looking for. But they're anti-parability in a way. And we don't have an answer for that yet. But if we keep trying, if we keep communicating, if we keep attempting to even work together, then maybe we can see that future. But if we just give up and we say it's never going to happen, then that is more likely, because if no one or nothing does, then no one or nothing will.
If you touch an electrically charged circuit of energy, you could get shocked or killed. Within our current awareness, energy doesn't have a choice in the resulting connection and the reactions to, but we, as conscious programs fueled by that energy, are more than able, and some are even willing, to make those choices to use the energy for either good or bad, to cause a small shock or to murder with power. So when each choice happens, whether by electricity or person, document its happening in history of and learn from it. Educate yourself and your community and attempt to solve it together. Let issues be known, but also truthfully and factually. Lying about a bad circuit or being misinformed is then partially at your fault for not being able to appropriately diagnose and resolve the error, and the error will still continue to persist or get worse as to form more errors in trust and environment. If you're wrong or misinformed, humble yourself and admit fault and learn from our mistakes to attempt your progress within your or our consequence or lack of, and educate yourself or ourself further into fewer errors and more accountability, or choose to continue selfishly and disconnected, becoming a branching disconnection evolving from the one you were attempting to connect in a series of events. June 12th, 2022. In any event, everything will continue to move on.
And so this is basically me expressing the importance of education and experience, and always attempting to continue that education and experience rather than being content with the education and experience you already have, and just never changing from that. And I think, like, again, this is not a attack or dismissal of religions or any and all religions, but there are some religions that keep you inside of it, and basically are like, this is the way, and these are the rules of the things that you should follow. And then those people end up becoming hateful people, even though the religion states to be otherwise. And they think that you can't be moral or ethical unless you follow their religion. But that is kind of a fallacy. Like, if there is morals and ethics outside of religion, like some religions, do teach some good parables that do teach some good stories of morals and ethics, but you don't need religion to be moral or ethical. And so if you stop your education at religion, then you lose all the other morals and ethics that that could help you in educating yourself and others in experience. And also, in my opinion, that will increase your faith in things. It will test you. It will test your faith, but by testing it, you're increasing that faith to a degree, unless you just abandon it altogether, which could also be it's a spectrum of everything. But kind of what I mean here by this electrically charged circuit of energy, like um, energy gets charged into electricity at some points, right? Um, they're two separate forms, but they're also, similar to the same. And so, like, if you use your energy and you shock someone else, whether actual, electricity, like you plug them with a cable, or if you say something hateful, you spread a hateful energy, a negative energy towards someone. Um, you have the choice to do that, and so if you keep doing that, you either learn that you enjoy it, or you learn empathy and compassion and morals and ethics uh, on why you shouldn't do that or why someone else shouldn't do that. Um, Maybe you experience it for yourself and you're like, I would never want that to happen to someone else. Or you experience it for yourself and then you're like, well, I gotta spread this hate to everyone else because someone shocked me and now I get to shock you or someone else. Um, and that tit for tat mentality is kind of sometimes harmful and hurtful. Uh, the idea that like because I suffered, you must suffer too. Because we're all going to suffer in our own ways, but to intentionally cause suffering to someone, uh, is that moral or ethical? Is that parability? And again, I'm sure you watching this understand that on some level. It's the people who would avoid this completely who are the ones that this information should hopefully reach. But will it make sense to them? I don't know. Will it inspire them to change? I don't know. But this is a proposal and an attempt to try.
Locate the sources of disconnection and communicate, troubleshoot, and document these issues and progress of all possible and or failing ideas and any resulting working solution. And the future will be very thankful. In theory, time is moving in a way that is currently beyond our comprehension, that it is already in progress of its happening, currently unknown to itself, but eventually able to look back at its development in a simultaneous state of awareness between before the unknown, through the unknown, and after the unknown. Tuesday, December 17th, 2019. In further thinking and observational analysis, from our knowledge of nature, ants and some other species of insects, and even birds, feed each other in a process called trophallaxis. Ants go out, search for food, and then store that found food in their social stomachs so that when they come into contact with other ants or return to the colony, they can transfer that food into the stomach of another ant that might need nutrition to survive and thrive. We make very similar transactions as humans, just not with our stomachs or only food, material, or energy, but also with currency or information, love, fear, etc. Each of us goes out and do every day to work and discover or produce some sort of beneficial return or some form of wealth or survival that we can share or not. If we provide for each other, we become a closer, stronger, healthier, and more advanced colony. If you had $2 and your partner has none, give them $1 if needed, and you can then provide for each other selfishly and selflessly. You may believe that level of sharing could lead to personal bankruptcy or an empty stomach, but if we are each accounted for, then there can only be profitability or balance, and you, like an ant or human being, should be attempted to be provided for and over time successfully grow older so you can then care for the young and teach them to thrive until you are gone and you live on within the life and influence you provided them with. Unless if unfortunately before then you are killed and or eaten at any point in time. But as an apex predator, humans are currently more and more less likely to be eaten by things that eat humans. Selfish and selfless. We work together and build from each other in all rather than divide us by perspective beliefs or fears. Love each other.
And so again, with this idea of trophallaxis, again, using ants as the example, ants make sure that each other are taken care of. And so it's this beyond selfish, because their selfish nature is to be selfless, is to, hey, are you hungry? I have some food in my social stomach, because they have two stomachs, and they're like, hey, I have some leftovers. I see you're hungry. Here, take some food. I know you need it. And then someone else will do that to them. And they're just constantly doing that to each other, making sure that each of them is taken care of so that they can extend beyond the selfish. Because if they're taken care of, again, as we've talked about, like once the selfish nature is taken care of, then it can extend outside of itself if it wants to, if it so chooses. And so, like, once you are fed, once you have all the money you need, once you have everything that you need, not want, need, because want, again, is selfish, but need is selfish, but it's also what you need versus what you want. And so once you have everything you need, then you can either go get what you want, or you can help others get what they need and what they want. You can extend to the selfless. Like, let's say all you need was $1 million, right? And so let's say you have $1 million now, and every other dollar that you get from that, let's say that $1 million carries you over for the rest of your life. That's all you need. You don't need any more, any less. So every other dollar that comes beyond that, you could be giving to others and doing, or you can hoard it to yourself and just keep expanding that $1 million, even though all you need is the million, right? But the want says, oh well, if I have more, then I can do more. I can be more. I can blah blah blah, and then that's how power kind of corrupts there. But if you instead plant it in the world around you, in the funk around you, in the environment around you, and you make sure that others, your environment, the other people and ants and whatever, you're doing this trophallaxis to them, then you will see that return just naturally, because then they will be able to give back to you on the occasion, because now they're taken care of at a higher rate. So yeah, just that idea and concept.
Also, if you're interested in supporting this research and documentation, please consider PayPaling or something else me $1 or more at Sean Penalver. I can definitely use any assistance as I continue to have to support existence in addition. The most positive form of love is support. June 12th, 2022, link to all my links.
And so if you do want to, again, there's no, you have to give me money for this and everything. This is a nonprofit. I believe that this information should be free and accessible to anyone and everyone, not only so that we can discuss it, but so that it's there and it's not gatekept or excluded from people who can't afford it, because this information should be available and accessible to anyone and everyone and everything. But if you'd like to help me, expand this in a way, if you'd like to give some trophallaxis, and so that we can both, be a little less selfish and a little more selfless, then that would be great and helpful. Again, I am trying to raise $2 million to fund an idea that I believe will change the entire world and will help me move into the experience of funding a presidential campaign and everything. And I, with the numbers that I've worked out, $2 million would just carry me for the rest of my life and also fund all of the ideas and projects that I would like to do, which would just expand more money. But again, in my case, I don't want more than that. All I want and all I need is what I need. I just need a nice, humble house, a nice, humble home, maybe a family. I don't need an extravagant mansion. I don't need fancy vacations and everything. What I want is to fund the planet. I want to fund you. I want to make so much money that I can just do other things for other people and help them achieve their dreams and goals. And I think $2 million will get me there. So if you'd like to help be a part of this and be a part of those dreams, send every little bit helps. Every little bit helps. And I'll send you some treats as well. So let's move on.
I want to highlight the importance of being an individual, because that is what life is to each of us. The individual self needs to learn how to properly function with the outer self and every variation of. If an individual never knows its function or how to express what it is doing, then it is indeed observed to be lost until found. One of many of you or our purposes is to learn to understand what you are doing and to understand the influence you have on the universe around you, and how to share that understanding with others. You must do and show and teach and share and work together for the best outcome. If you choose to not, then you are choosing to act selfishly.
And that just kind of encapsulates everything that we've been talking about, and a little bit more variability.
Thursday, December 19th, 2019. By request, now sending to Alex Ramos. Hello, Alex. Hope you and everyone reading this are well at any and every point you interact with this statement. Heart. Thursday, December 19th, 2019, continued. I am now attempting another read through and edit of this dissertation and dissection. I had only edited up to page 5 before I typed what you are now reading. Back to my work. Heart. March 20th, 2023. Now currently on the 3rd, May 27th, 2024. May the 4th be with you. August 20th, 2024, and the 5th.
December 11th, 2024, and the 6th, and we're in the 7th edition right now. So I guess, what is today? May 23rd, and the 7th. May 23rd, 2025, and the 7th.
This is what I was listening to. Spotify link. I also applied for various positions at Spotify. Should have really invested in only one like they suggested, but I would love to do any of it.
And I'm kind of glad I didn't end up working at Spotify, because then I wouldn't be who I am now, and where I am now. And also, Spotify doesn't give a shit about artists. So Spotify, do better. You are better than what you are currently.
Saturday, December 20th, 2019. There's currently no exact answer to the meaning of life creation and the purposes of our being, but there are so many observable answers that already exist, are existing, have existed, will exist, etc., much like multiple choice equation with infinite choices and answers.
And that is the end of pages 221 to 230. So let's see what Taylor has to say about what we've been discussing and what she just read.
All right, so after reading pages 221 through 230, as well as some other pages due to a small clerical error where I read some earlier parts of the book as well, really enjoyed just overall your perspective, just the things that you have talked about, the way that you've included other people's feedback in areas. But I think what sticks out most to me about these pages is in talking about just kind of like collective energy, right? Collectively working towards the greater good. That's something that I greatly believe in, given that used to always say when I worked in education that why I worked in education is because the more educated one person is, the more educated we are collectively as a society. And so some of the things that are talked about through these pages really resonate with that thought. So it warmed me up a little bit reading that. I also loved, you'll probably see in my recording, I laughed, smiled, not laughed, when it said that you love us for having read and given this peer review. And so just love you too. Thanks for sharing, and thanks for putting out into the world what you are learning. Again, the more educated that we make one person, the more educated we make everyone.
I also want to point out her shirt, Energy with Purpose, Synchronicity, the funk provides.
So starting up on page 221, talking about what came to you in your sleep. I would love if I could actually remember anything that I think about in my sleep. But talking about your secrets and being able to share your secrets, I really liked this a lot, mainly because something I've learned through therapy, which is talked about in this section as well, is that you can't be mad at people for not being able to read your mind. And I think this section really reiterates that especially it's very easy to say with a partner, a working relationship, any type of thing like that if you have an expectation and you haven't shared that expectation, then you don't necessarily have the right to be upset that they haven't met that expectation. Of course, pending as long as it isn't harming you or things along those lines. But, if you really like pink flowers and they always bring you yellow, but you've never told them you like pink, then I don't think it's really fair to be mad that they keep bringing you yellow flowers. So talking about this and comparing it as secrets, I think was a really neat way of sharing it because, as you mentioned in the talking about having the answer to a puzzle, it's almost shameful to have the answer in front of you. But in reality, if you had that answer, then you would be moving forward. You would be sharing knowledge. And so it really resonated a lot in that being able to share those secrets with people where you feel safe in doing so really can make a difference and in what you're able to share out. Also really enjoyed the yes and no buts. Tying in the scientific method there, taking me back to middle school is probably the last time I truly used that. But explaining it in the way of how do you explaining it like a child. I always think that's such a good way to explain it is telling a child something's hot. They don't know what that means. They don't even know what the word hot might mean, right? Nor do they know the consequence of touching something hot. So being able to explain that is the no but where you learn to get to the yes and thinking about your secrets of life, existence, and the universe and how we interact with it all and what we've learned from it. I think this was a really just powerful part of what I've read is that we have this opportunity to, again, make everyone around us better. And that is something that I very much believe in. So really, really appreciated reading this part of of these pages. Also really enjoyed the explanation of schizoanalysis. As you also commented that you thought that originally this post might have been something more similar to saying that these words and sayings are more along the lines of schizophrenia versus schizoanalysis. I think that this person did a really good job of explaining it. And I also really appreciate the way that the definition that you shared as well, where psychoanalysis is the analysis of the mind, where schizoanalysis is the study of our environments and social societies shape that mind. And I feel like that the schizoanalysis is really pertaining to what we've been talking about throughout this. Your next crazy project, proposal, running for president. What a big goal, and something that I think is one of the great things about being in our country is that anyone can have that goal and can seek out to make that happen. Personally, and this is absolutely nothing against you, but I like to think that the presidents are more of a figurehead. And so where I think people have more influence and more power is in local government, in people who are going to make decisions that affect your neighbors. And so I would encourage you to maybe consider that, just because that is something that I would encourage anybody who is wanting to make a difference, who is wanting to make the collective better, which is something that is obviously a part of your desire, but also...
And that is something I'm going to be looking into either this year or next year, how to get more involved in my local city, and maybe running for something small and then building from there, going from there. Again, dipping my toes into the waters, because I agree. Start here, start at home, start small, and then build out, because just going right to president is a huge jump. And so again, I'm trying to build a team of all of us and everything to help each other reach that goal. Because what I would really, really, really love is like, as I'm doing this thing, building this syllabus of how to become president and everything, that like other people are live taking part of it and also learning how to do it as well. And then if they are a better option and I'm running against them, then let's go for them, right? Like, you don't have to vote for me just because I'm the guy behind these ideas and making this system of pairability to where we can all have a greater chance of running to be president. Because again, there are going to be better options out there. But I want to build. I want to build a system that helps those better options reach there. And I think we're going to have a lot of pushback to that, unfortunately.
Just appreciate saying it out loud, right? That's a hard thing to do. Having such a big goal like that and putting it out there takes a lot of courage. So kudos for that as
Thanks.
well. And then just continuing on, I really enjoyed the part of thinking of racism, sexism, hate, and identification bias as glitches. I really like that explanation, because when you think of people and what we're capable of, it's like, where did this hate come from? Like, and describing it as a glitch just sounds right. And that it's something that has to be worked out, I think, is another great point that you articulate through this. That it's not something that is just going to grow legs and walk away. That it is something that has to be learned to overcome. And so comparing it to like removing data, reprogramming it, I think that's the thing, is not only, I think that's a big part in learning, is that not only learning what is wrong, but learning what is right, so that you know that not only that what you're saying is hateful or cruel, but that here is why it's hateful and cruel, and here is how we should be treating each other.
Learning what is hot and why not to touch hot, to extend the metaphor.
So explaining that as glitches was a neat way a different way to look at those and understand that they need to be changed, and appreciate that viewpoint. Also, appreciated the comparison of ants and how, again, they work collectively for the colony. And this comes back to what I said earlier about, I believe in the better good in the collective. I believe that helping your neighbor is never going to be the wrong answer. And making this place that we live in, this time that we live in, making it better is only going to continue to put positive energy, positive karma into the world. And that's what's going to help us make change, going to make this a better place than this kind of rough society that it feels like we live in right now. And overall, love that one of the final words that I read of yours was love each other. Obviously, my last name, that love's a word that I throw around, because I think that there's never enough of it. And so, yeah, let's love each other. Let's care for each other, and let's make the collective good as best as we can. And in sharing, you applied for some roles in Spotify. Hoping that worked out.
It didn't. Taylor Love, thank you for being you, for reading these pages, for sharing your thoughts. Thank you again. And additionally, you reading this, watching this, listening to this, thank you for being you, for verbing. I love you. I love you all. And in case I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. As always, the funk provides. And so, until next time, y'all. Peace out. Just one finger over here. All right. Y'all take care.